then we're just going to go.
Silence!
I know. I hit the wrong button.
Do you not know what silence means?
I hope to goodness our volumes are good because we're just going to wing it, y'all. We're winging it.
Someone doesn't know what silence means.
Judy! Trying to make sure I'm on silent.
So,
I'm on silent.
what's our new... Welcome to our podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
No, I don't remember starting doing.
What do we normally say? What do we say really funny?
Oh, God.
Because it was like, I think we said, welcome to the... We are podcasting today, ladies and gentlemen, or something. It was so funny.
Okay.
And of course, it was too good to remember.
Next time we write it down.
Next time, yeah.
Okay, welcome to our podcast today, ladies and gentlemen. Today's topic is about the milestones that I'm going through 3 years after my husband passed away, and I wonder if you can relate. Where do I even begin? Yesterday was the 3rd anniversary of my husband's passing.
Are we recording?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't see them.
Oh, I'm sorry. Bridge, can you see it now?
Rich likes to see the little voices.
Because I didn't think we were... I'm like, why is she saying all this to us?
Oh my God, we're never going to get through it.
Where's your call?
I didn't know we were... Okay.
And you didn't do it at the beginning of the podcast because you didn't know we were podcasting.
I thought we were just still talking amongst ourselves.
I am not going to...
If I don't
Bing
see...
every single time.
If I don't see the things moving, I don't know it's real.
I hope this is going well. Anyway.
Is it live or is it memorized?
Yeah. Okay. This is the 3rd anniversary of my husband's passing, and I don't know about you, but I've learned through years of therapy that I need to take the time to process. So yesterday was all about, I'm just going to sit here and remember the good times and feel the feelings. And I don't know, I just had to get through it, that 3rd year anniversary. And one of the things that was a real hardship for me was the fact that it took me, a year and some change to actually commit to creating a headstone. And then it took me, since I'm a graphic designer, months of back and forth with the company, the headstone company, to get it right. And I don't know about you ladies. I don't know about you, Bridge, but I don't know if I'm taking this on sideways, but I feel like when we're at our worst moment, people are out there to take advantage.
I believe that.
Yeah. And I feel like I got caught up in that with this headstone company. It's very unfortunate.
You feel like they took advantage of you?
Yeah. They could have done such a better job. They could have definitely taken better care of me. And I already was an emotional wreck. Even a year after his passing, I couldn't make those decisions. What are you going to write on it? I don't know, but it has to be perfect.
Right.
Because this is the end of his life, and what I write on this headstone is going to matter to my son, our son.
And it's going to be there forever.
And it's going to be there forever. And I remember finally having written it, and it was beautiful, and it was from the heart. And then somebody in the family read it and said, this needs to be in it. And that was another couple months of back and forth with the company to get it right. And I can't tell you how many times I wished it was over, but finally it went in last Thursday, and my son and I went there on Saturday, which was the 3rd year anniversary. And he just told me that he was so thankful that he had a place to go and he knew where his dad was at so that he can mourn him properly. And coming from a 18, almost 19-year-old, I thought that was very mature, deep.
Significant.
It was very deep. Yeah.
It's significant.
I mean, this is a huge progress.
It's a
milestone. It's a milestone for you guys.
Yeah.
Because you can no pun intended, lay to rest that part of having to get the headstone placed. It's done. It's there. Max can now go and visit his dad. You can go and visit your husband.
Yeah.
And you'll know where he's at.
And it's almost
and you'll know who you're talking to.
And it's almost like 3 years. That's a long time to have to go back and forth with trying to get the headstone just right. Because I can imagine that every time you had to talk to somebody about it, that hurt comes up again.
Right.
Yes, you're right. It does.
And for them not to have taken care of you and had more empathy and handle you, I mean,
they might be in the wrong business.
They might be in the wrong business because in that situation, they should be handling you with kid gloves. They should be handling the widow or the mourning family with such care that you should feel like you're the most important customer they have, and that they want to do the best job that they can to make you happy. And it sounds like they didn't really accommodate that for you, especially with it taking as long as it did. And maybe they were resentful that you were a graphic designer that was better than them. Maybe they were a little jealous of your skills and abilities.
Could have been.
Yeah.
And I mean, you were seeking perfection because that's what you wanted for your husband. And
doesn't he deserve it?
He does, absolutely. And they should have understood that and focused on that and accommodated you on that. They should have been like more empathetic towards you and more, yes, we understand. We need to get this right, and just be there to help you push this through. And it doesn't mean.
How do you feel though now that it's there? Yeah. That process is done and it's there. It's heavy.
It is definitely a weight off my shoulders. And I feel like I can think of something else. Like that's all I've been thinking about for the past 3 years. It's always been in the back of my head. Like, is it going to be done this week? Can I, like just one of those things. It was the last thing. Like all of the paperwork is taken care of, the taxes, head of the household now, blah, blah, blah. But, all of that stuff has been done years ago.
Right.
And this is the final statement, the period to his life. And it's also hard to swallow because this really means that it is the end.
Right.
And yes, he's been gone for 3 years. I know. But this is it. This is it.
There's some finality to it.
Finality, yeah.
That's the last thing that you have to do as a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now it's just you and your son.
And going through all those decisions, people want to help you. Like you send the writing for the tombstone to your parents, to your family, to friends, and they just don't want to comment because it's really all, it's you, period. You've got to make the decisions.
Right.
And that was hard because I didn't want to do that to them, but I needed help. I was like, I can't do this alone.
Right.
And so at least we're finally here.
Yeah.
And so I spent the day mourning my husband again, which is really every day. But you know what really hurts though? Is when you're concentrating on a day like this. It is one of the biggest thing that has happened in your life that you can't ever forget. But nobody else remembers. And that ruins you.
That hurts.
Like they'll text me something like, hey, I had a great day. Guess what just happened? And you're like, should I send them a picture of us at the cemetery? It's just like, please, just give me a few minutes, a few moments to.
We remembered you, girl.
I know
you guys were great.
And the other thing, I mean, and I get it from experiencing it with my mom, but I mean, that's definitely different than a spouse, but especially your close family members. I mean, I know Max, he remembers and he's always going to remember, but like the extended family, the cousins and the in-laws and all of that. And the first thing that they come out to you and say is, hey, guess what I did today? And you're like, as you're at the cemetery, not, hey, how are you today?
How are you today?
How are you today? And then start the conversation with that morning text you, remembering that, hey, how are you today? To this day, it's not as bad. I mean, we don't do it as much as we did in the first couple of years of my mom's passing, but on the anniversary of her birth, on her birthday, their wedding anniversary, and her anniversary of her death, we all would send a group text to each other just to check on each other. And we probably did it for the first 5 years. Now, my mom's been on 12. Doesn't mean we miss her just as much as we did when 3 years ago, 10 years ago, but the hurt is a little bit less, and we don't get as weepy. Well, I think that's the drugs anymore. The Lexapro helps, but I don't get as, I feel like I don't get as teary-eyed, and I think it's from
it as time passes, and I'll say this again and again, and I've said this. People say, "Oh, time heals all wounds," and I don't believe that, because some wounds don't heal. But I do believe that time makes them all just a little more copable.
Takes the sting out of it.
Yeah. I mean, it really does.
It does.
And for you, for this to be the 3rd year, but to also have this significant milestone of having the headstone put in, that's hard.
Yeah.
Because it brings it right back.
Brings it right to the surface.
Right back. I'm crying.
I look back when my experience with my mom and with my dad, watching him go through it, and we were fortunate that her situation didn't take as long, but when we did finally get to do it, to turn her into the columbarium, my dad had put his name on it. And seeing his name on there, because it has her name
with his birthday, but it doesn't have
a death date. But it has my mom's birth date and death date and her nickname, and then there's not enough room to put like sayings or anything, because it's just a really small little placard. But his comment to us was, "See, I already got my name on there, so you guys only have to put the day I die on there." And we were just like, "Dad, this is not the day," joke about that kind of stuff. But
to him,
that's my next step, is to get that done, so Max doesn't have to do it.
Well, right, and that's what that and planning all of this, my dad now has. He's already made all his prearrangements. He where he's going to be, where he wants to be, how he wants to be. The only thing he's left up to us is like if we want to do any kind of prayers and the little cards, the prayer cards and stuff like that. That's all up to us. But as far as like the cremation and what he's going to be put in, how he's all that, he's
well, it's and that's good, because that helps lessen the burden. I don't want to say burden, but it's a burden because you're grieving.
Right.
And so that does help, but we're talking the difference between a 49-year-old dying unexpectedly,
right,
and an 80-something-year-old who already knows this is coming.
Right. And that's what's going to say. I mean, she had to make these decisions.
That unexpected loss.
Yes. That's what
hard stuff.
It's going to be so much easier for us.
Mm-hmm.
Then maybe the death will be unexpected, or it'll be fast, or whatever. But
you know it's coming.
We know it's coming. But you didn't know. You were completely blindsided by it. So for you to have to deal with making the arrangements, contacting family, contacting the funeral home, contacting the cemetery, just putting it all together.
Did you have anyone come with you, like when he first passed? I don't know if you
when he first
went to
passed,
the funeral home or the hospital or anything like that.
When he first passed, everybody left, and it was just Max and I just sitting here alone and wondering what the hell we were going to do. And we had decided, after having called his mother, that an autopsy was necessary because he's 49 and he seemed healthy.
49-year-olds just don't drop dead.
Right. So
what they do.
And we found out that it is, and there's a condition, and I just really didn't want to put him through that. And
put Al through that?
Husband? Even though he had passed, but they had to take him into Baltimore to the coroner's office was there. Coroner's, is that how I say it?
Office, yeah.
And do you know what they do? It's just awful. I just can't even, oh my God. Anyway, when we found that out, a lot of my friends decided to go get checked because they're like, this is crazy. Right. So at least, that that helped their health journey,
Right.
But we were alone.
It gave you awareness for Max's journey. So Max, if it's something hereditary, you need to know, because you want to make sure Max is safe.
And I think that's one reason why he's so into fitness. He loves to go to the gym and he loves to take care of himself, which is great.
Right.
And he's also a 19-year-old who wants to look good.
He's a cutie.
My mother-in-law and my father did come down as fast as they possibly could. And then I did have support. And I do remember somewhere somebody saying that Dad couldn't believe, even though I was going through the worst moment of my life, I was still functional in order to make sure the funeral arrangements were set. The paperwork was done. I called all the right people, and it was during COVID, so I had to make sure people didn't flood the gates at the funeral home, or else they would shut off the funeral.
Right.
It's just like one thing after another where how am I even existing at this moment? But
how much of it do you vividly remember, or is it more like, because I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes you don't remember certain things because it just is so overwhelming.
It was overwhelming.
Yeah. So, do you look back and now you probably think, how did I manage that?
Do I have to look back?
You don't.
You do not.
You don't. No, you don't. But I'm just saying.
Who else is going to do it? I think that's the bottom line. No one else was going to do it.
Right.
So I had to do it.
Right.
And I wanted him to be taken care of.
Right.
And I wanted him to be taken care of the way I think he should be taken care of. So therefore, it had to be me.
Right. And now that the headstone's in place after the 3 years of putting you through hell to get it done, you can actually be at peace and you can breathe. And now you can focus on the good memories and.
Well, I know. I feel so blessed that I had so many people around me. I didn't make any phone calls. No. I called my 2 sisters. I texted Judy because she thought we were going out to lunch that day.
And then you can't say what you said and not pick up the phone when I call.
And
she's like, I got people here with me. It's okay. I'll talk to you when I can. I was like, okay. I know she's taken care of. I just didn't want her to be by herself. And that was what I worried about.
No, I had.
And that's what I love about you guys.
But they made all the phone. So as far as the autopsy, it's a rough process. And I basically, even though my husband was 60 and we didn't expect him to die at 60, his doctor knew his history well enough and had a pretty good idea of what it was, that it was a pulmonary embolism. And so he called it while, but the body was still at my house. And I asked the EMTs and everybody else who was still there, did they need to take his body to the hospital? And they said, only if you want an autopsy done. And I didn't, because I felt like I knew what happened. I saw it happening. The doctor conferred based on, the descriptions and whatever. And I was like, we know what happened. The autopsy process is rough, if you know. And I was just like, I don't want to put him through that. So they took him. They said, well, then you can just call the funeral home and have them come get him. So that's what we did. Somebody called the funeral home. I picked a local one down the street, and somebody at my house, thank goodness, because I didn't have to make any of those phone calls. They called, they came, they got him. And when we went to the funeral home it was like a day or two. It was fast. It was like a day later. Again, I was still a mess. I couldn't really talk. And I had my mother there, my 2 sisters there, and collectively we said, yes, do this and do that. And I knew what he had wanted. We had been talking about, when we pass and when we die and what do we want. And so I knew what he wanted. So I could say, this is what he wanted. And it's really weird. I don't know if I ever told you this. I had a dream the night after he passed. I saw like a blue urn and it had like gold wings. And I was like, I want a blue and gold urn. they had a blue and gold urn. You've seen his urn.
I see his urn. There's one come over, and my greetings to him. Hi, Mike. I am gay.
And it's a little shorter than in my dream. In my dream, it was taller, but it's a little shorter, but it's blue and it's gold filigree, and it has like a gold filigree butterfly on the top of it. And it's short and stout and it's round. I said, that's just like him.
Yep, sure is.
So that's perfect. That's perfect. So that's really the only, I was like, I have to find this urn that I saw in my dream. And it was very, very close enough. But it was hard. But I did have a lot of family and they did make those phone calls for me.
Good.
And I can't imagine having to make those phone calls.
Yeah, especially because you don't have any family locally.
No.
Everybody's out of state, right?
I mean, I have outside
Okay.
living close by in Glenburn.
Okay.
Were you close to them though?
I know. Just a warning to the people out there who are going through this. If you're a widow, do not read the coroner's report. I had to call them to find out what was going on, and then they explained it to me, and that's all I need to know. There was no reason for me to read every single word of the coroner's report because it was absolutely dreadful.
And does that come out if you get an autopsy?
Yes.
Okay, because I was going to say, I don't.
Dude, I was going to say, did they
think
give
I
you the
had that.
autopsy report?
Yes.
They send it to you?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I would rather. Can you just summarize it in a paragraph on the first page?
So because Mike didn't have an autopsy, I didn't have that. We just had the death certificate, and it had the cause of death as pulmonary embolism, and that was basically, all that was on there.
Can't remember.
Well, that's what it was, though. I know that's what it was just from talking to the doctor.
And the symptoms he was experiencing that morning.
If your gut feeling is saying that, then you're on point.
Right.
No, I knew. I mean, his doctor, Mike was very good about going to the doctor for, regular checkups, and he had just had an EKG, and the doctor said his heart was strong. He's like, I don't think it was a heart attack. He said, was he grasping at his left side? Was he holding his arm or his left side? I said, no. He just kept saying, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And he collapsed. And I tried to get him to lay down on the bed. And when he laid down on the bed, he said it was worse. It hurt worse. So he sat back up. So after he sat back up, then he just kind of collapsed and fell onto the ground. And the floor, the bed, what do you call it?
The bedroom floor.
Yeah, the bedroom floor. And he just kept saying he couldn't breathe. He couldn't breathe. So, when I talked to the doctor was like, it wasn't a heart attack based on the symptoms. I don't think it was a heart attack based on his history. I know his history. I don't think it was a heart attack. He said it sounds like a pulmonary embolism. So blood clot to the lung, basically what it is, blood clot to the lung. And they said the EMTs and the ambulance, everybody who's there, the police and the fire and everybody who was there, slow down in Anne Arundel County, I don't know. A lot of people came.
Yeah.
They basically said, if you're okay with that, Mrs. Miles, if you agree with the doctor, then that's what we'll put on the death certificate. That's what, we'll certify that was his cause of death, and he does not have to have an autopsy. And I said, I don't want him to have an autopsy. Yeah. So he went straight to the funeral home.
And on a side note, my dad worked for a funeral home. My dad is a jack of all trades. He has done every job you can imagine. And one
Did
of them,
the Christmas tree farm?
Yeah, he ran a Christmas tree lot for a friend who had a Christmas tree farm.
I love that. I know.
And he did it for 30 years, for as long as I can remember. He worked for, I don't know if he worked for Lawn Fence, but he worked for a company that put in fencing. So he did fencing on the weekends, and then he had his full-time job, and then he delivered flowers. He worked at a liquor store.
And he worked for a funeral home.
And that was his job. He would go and pick bodies up for the funeral home. That was what he did.
I'm going to tell you, 2 very strong ladies came in and carried Mike out.
Strong ladies.
I swear to God, when they walked in, they were tiny little things. And I was like, I don't think they're going to be able to carry him down the steps and out the door. Sure enough, they did. Wow. They were little. I was like, I don't think they did. Because, Mike weighed 200 pounds alive. So you're thinking 200 pounds of dead weight.
Yeah.
That's heavy. They did it. But anyway,
Wow.
But I am glad that I did not have to go through that autopsy process because I'm sure that was hard.
I just hope my warning gets out there because
How long does something like that take?
it took 3 weeks to almost a month.
But that didn't hold up the services
Correct.
that you were arranging.
Oh, okay.
And the crazy thing is, there's a million things that happened that were just off the chains. But
Can I ask you a question?
sure.
Just related to, if it takes 3 weeks to get the coroner's report, does that mean you didn't get an official death certificate for 3 weeks?
Yeah.
That puts a lot of stuff on hold.
Yeah. At least that's what I remember. Oh my God. There was an unusual situation.
We have a novel or a book here.
We have a book.
Yeah.
The Merry Widows.
The Merry Widows have a book.
Merry Widows have some very unmerry tales to tell.
I think we could call it what to do if your spouse unexpectedly passes.
Yeah, maybe we should.
For dummies, because there are a lot of
She's been telling me that for years that I need to, because you find so many things out on the fly.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
That.
And it's things that you wouldn't even think of.
That you wouldn't even think of.
Experience? What part? You were getting ready to say something that happened.
Oh. Al, before he passed away, he had set up a situation where we were going to do something in Max's bathroom, put doors on his tub, whatever. And they kept calling his phone, which was dead. They kept calling. And then I was like, I knew that was a problem. So, I don't know. I think it was like very soon. Like I just found out what happened to Al. And he's like, I called them and they're like, we have been trying. Like they came at me with Spitfire. I was like, oh, really? Go ahead. Say your piece. He's dead. They're like, what? And I'm like, yeah. Next time you decide to talk to somebody like that,
ask them what has been, why there may have been a hold up. Ask them why they weren't answering the phone.
Right. And then they're like, well, what happened? I'm like, that's not your, I didn't say it's not your business. I'm like, this is what happened. Oh, no. I said, I don't know. It's still with the coroner. He's still with the coroner, whatever. It was something like that. And I was like, can we please get these installed and just end this?
Oh, you poor thing. Yes. So you had to have them come out and do it anyway. I mean, I'm sure you wanted it done anyway, but at that time?
Yes. And they're like, the class has been sitting in their office for like 3 months or whatever. I don't know. And I was like, I don't know what to tell you guys. But this is the stuff that pops up that makes you insane.
It really does.
Especially because that was the furthest thing from your mind at that moment was you taking care of getting the glass doors put on the tub. I'm sure that was not a priority at that point.
I didn't care. I just didn't care.
I'm sure you wouldn't even.
And you probably didn't even. It probably was so far in the back burners of your brain that you probably didn't. I mean, it certainly didn't pop up. And
I have another question for you. How long after Al passed did you have to go back to work?
I think I don't remember. I guess I don't remember much, but I remember going back probably too soon.
Those are the blurry moments that I was talking about.
They were blurry moments, but
I have a girlfriend whose husband recently passed, and she had to go back to work after 2 weeks.
That sounds about right. I mean,
and it's been a struggle for her. It's been rightly so. But, and she said the same thing, too soon. I said, why did,
you feel obligated, like, because when you give birth, you have a lot amount of time.
Right.
And I think there's only so many hours that they give you that you feel safe with your job position.
Well, that's why you have the FMLA, the family friendly FFA. Or FFMA.
FMLA.
You have the family medical.
You don't get paid.
That's not. I mean, if you have enough leave, or you can use your leave in conjunction with leave without pay. My HR skills are kicking in, and everybody has the FMLA or FFMA.
What's FFMA?
Family friendly medical. something.
Never heard of it.
So there's two different kinds.
Yeah.
And I think one of them is for, there are different situations, like, because you can use them for the birth of a child or the adoption of a child, taking care of a sick spouse, a sick family member.
I'm familiar with FMLA, but not.
There's two of them, and they basically mean the same thing. But one of them you can use for yourself, and one of them you can use for family. Okay. But it basically protects your job, and you can take up to 12 months.
12 weeks.
12 weeks. 12 weeks. I'm sorry. 12
FMLA
weeks,
is
12 weeks in a calendar year. And if you have enough leave, you can use your paid leave to do it. But some people
most people don't have 12 weeks.
A lot of people are not going to have that amount
sitting on the books.
Paid leave. But you can invoke those rights, and that time that you're out of the office is considered protective time. So if you're out the full 12 weeks in that calendar year, they can't hold it against you.
So did you consider taking FMLA, going out any longer? Or did you?
I did what I had to do in order to get the job done, because there was a lot of planning.
Money kind of a thing, because people don't have to.
But I remember my job being so understanding. Like that was not a challenge. I told my boss at where I work, and he took it to HR and he took care of it. Like, I didn't have to do it.
Right.
I mean, later on I had to fill out paperwork and do all that stuff.
Right.
But it was a huge relief that he took it. And I think that's one reason why he reached out to me recently. He's no longer my boss now, but he still remembers that moment. And I think it affected him too.
Right.
So, because I think he's just a little bit older than me, and then I think he put himself in my place and realized, whoa. So that was never a problem. You know what was something that I just realized is I went on to my husband's Facebook page, and I was like, I still am married on Facebook. I'm still tied to him. And so I was like, okay, what happens if I put widow? And I put widow, and then I'm like, oh, no. If you're a widow, then you have to do all of this other stuff to make the change. So I have to supply Facebook with a death certificate and explanations before they can memorialize his site so no one can actually hack him. You know what I mean?
Like, can you just ask to delete it?
No, they won't do it. So
they deleted my husband's. I'm going to tell you.
I kind of like, though, there being a place for people to memorialize them.
Well, right. Yeah. No, I asked them
to kind of want to do that.
And they tried to get I'm forever going to be married to my third. Because I can't access my Facebook account.
So if anybody looks you up, you're still Judy McDonald.
Yeah, married to.
They don't.
So that's why you all only. We can reach out on Instagram.
I can say his name.
You can, yeah.
But no, I had Mike's deleted. But I understand you want to make Al's more of a memorial type page. I had Mike's deleted, and I knew his code. I was in his account.
Right.
I probably pretended like I was him.
Right.
And just said delete my account.
Right. So I can't get into my account. So I've had people.
Thank God I could get rid of his account.
I know. I really wish somebody would get rid of my account. And we have tried. We've tried on numerous occasions. I've had people report that my material is inappropriate. My pictures are inappropriate because of the one with me and him.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm like,
now I need to tap in on that.
It's nothing. I mean, it's nothing risque or anything, but it's just all the happy pictures when I thought we were happily married, which I come to find out we weren't. And he faked it very well. But so my daughters reported me dead. My friends have reported me dead, and talk about bad karma, right? I'm sure they should have done, but I'm trying everything to get them to shut down this place. I
want them to put that out in the world. I'm just saying.
Well, and so it asks you it asked her if she wanted it deleted or if she wanted a memorial page, and she said no, we just want to delete it, and she had to supply them a death certificate, and she's like, well, we haven't gotten it yet, and just left it at that.
So it's still there.
So it's still there. It's still active. And I probably have a gazillion, probably birthday wishes or whatever. I don't know. I can't access I don't have a Facebook account anymore because of that. So I didn't. He created a new one.
I'm going to look you up.
Yeah. We're probably still friends.
I don't know either.
Well, yeah. Laura can look me up.
I cannot believe where our life has taken us. Jeez.
Or this podcast.
Yeah.
Who knows where this podcast
or this particular episode.
Yeah. I wonder what our listeners have gone through. Jeez. If they're listening to us, they have had to been through some life tragedy. And I just hope that what we're doing and what we're talking about rings true and helps them find some peace. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This life we live.
And hopefully, I think the biggest thing for me is it's kind of like you're not alone.
Exactly.
Just like when I was calling you Lori and tapping you on the arm, I was just kind of like, I was still in shock. It had only been a month for me. And I was still in shock. And I was like, and I had known you from the neighborhood and seeing you around or whatever. But, we weren't friends then. But I was just in shock that 6 houses up, you had experienced the same thing with another young husband, And I was just in shock. And to be able to reach out and be like, I think we're going through similar things.
Right.
It was important. I mean, I think it was really important. And I think it was support. Even though we didn't know each other before, we knew each other from saying hi, but we didn't know each other. Just, that support of we're living right down the street from each other and we're going through a very similar, the same situation. Some of the circumstances were different, but the same situation, and being able to form a bond for support. Maybe if people are listening to this, that they might not have the same level of support on the street. We're here. There's people going through the same things, and we're all handling it as best we can.
Well, I hope not. I hope not. People aren't going through their third divorce. They're smarter than me.
We have some advice on that too. Don't get married 3 times.
Just don't do it.
If you've done it twice and it didn't work out, you might just not be suited.
Just saying. Put a ring on it and call it a day, but don't say the I do's.
3 times.
Well, Bridge, I am glad that you reached out because we are human beings and that we can't do it alone. How could you do this alone?
You can't.
You can't.
And no one should.
Yeah, no.
Because it's
a lot.
It's too overwhelming.
It's overwhelming. Like we said earlier, there's so many things that you find out on the fly that you're like,
oh,
now I have to do this. Now I have to deal with bathroom doors.
Oh my God. And just the legal stuff as far as getting names removed off of things, especially if you own things jointly, and and even getting your Facebook shut down. You have to have a death certificate. Who knew?
If you want to memorialize.
If you want to memorialize it. If you don't have their login, it can't go in.
You can pretend like you're them.
I still have mail coming.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh.
I got a jury summons for my husband. My husband, I shouldn't say I got a jury summons. My husband got a jury summons. He's been dead 2.5 years.
Wow. Wow.
He just got summoned to jury duty.
Should write back, can't make it.
Just put on there, deceased.
I'm like, are you serious right now? And the thing that had me I can't believe this is because you have to file an estate account with the county.
Yeah.
It's the same county. So, I guess the registrar of wills and the jury duty pool, they don't interact. They don't know that this dude is he's off the records for everything.
You would have thought that they would have pulled his name out of the logarithm that pulls the names, or the database that houses the names.
I had to get his names off of our vehicles. I had to take a death certificate to Motor Vehicle Administration. So aren't all these things connected?
Right.
Apparently not.
Apparently not. Well, yeah.
Because they're expecting him to call in 2 weeks.
And that might be a miracle.
They're not going to go. He's not calling people.
And if he does, we're going to have a seance.
He's not calling. I mean, it's crazy. So the point being, besides it being hilarious, 2.5 years later, I'm dealing with mail for my husband, and some would consider it important, some would not. But a jury summons 2.5 years later.
Well, now, and I know from my third marriage, his father had passed away, and his mom was still receiving phone calls for spam solicitations for people calling wanting to talk to him. And he had been dead for 8 years. He had been gone for 8 years. And the landline was still getting these robocalls for, donations and charity things and stuff like that. And she's just like...
I remember Grandma talking about that.
And it's like,
well, honey, he's been dead for 10 years.
Right.
As polite as she was. Honey.
Oh, okay, bye.
Put him on your do not call list.
Wait. If the county judicial system calls, that's what I'm going to tell them. But they will probably call his cell phone number, which is deactivated, or it's going to somebody else now.
Mm-hmm. Oh gosh.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's been 2.5 years.
I wonder.
It took me about a year and a half. It took me about a year and a half to disconnect his cell phone.
Same.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
I couldn't.
It took me the longest time to take my mom's phone number.
And my husband had a different account. We didn't even have the same account. And I continued to pay that other account for his phone.
Yep. Why?
I don't know why. For a year and a half, at least a year and a half.
I remember I was talking about that, and you were like, "Is it time?" I'm like, "Well, I mean,"
and you were thinking it was time.
I was like,
"It was time a long time ago, Bridge." I just wasn't going to say anything.
And the crazy thing is like I was going to save his phone for in case Max breaks his because it happens all of the time.
Mm-hmm. He's 18.
Yeah, but now the phones. They're so advanced and they go out of, what is it called? They go out of commission so quickly that his phone is so outdated now that it doesn't.
Yeah. Especially with the 5G and all that.
I have two phones for Mike. I have an iPhone 11 and an iPhone 12 that are literally sitting in the tray on my coffee table.
Mm-hmm. Why? Organized.
Why? Yeah. I mean, I didn't know what to do with it. And then it's just there. And if anyone knows what to do with these,
call into our podcast.
I mean, they're just sitting there, and I look at them, and I'm like, somebody might want this, but I don't know what.
There used to be a program that collected phones, and this was years ago, for like women's shelters and battered women and stuff like that. And they would, and they would scrub the phones. They would delete everything and factory reset everything. And then I guess it was like the shelters and stuff that for the women and children who were battered and abused and stuff like that. They would take those phones and they would give them to, because we do pay into a fund to pay for services for people who can't afford phones.
Huh.
So you could always look into donate them.
Do I have to take the SIM card out? I have factory reset the phone. He's no longer logged in with his Apple ID, but his telephone number is still associated with it, even though the telephone is dead, because something happened and my sister was trying to do something and it said, oh, this phone number is no longer in service, but it was still attached.
Well, isn't that what the SIM card is for?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm supposed to take that out.
Well, I mean, if you go to the phone company, if you go to Verizon, or go to your provider, whoever the provider was, and say, tell them you have two phones and you'd like to donate them to whatever programs are out there,
right?
And do I need to take the SIM card out? Because I would assume that you're going to have to take the SIM card, because that's the piece that has the phone number that connects that device to the provider.
So you have to take it.
So like if you even had a Verizon and you switched you took your phone to another provider, you would have to get the phone ported in or whatever. And you're not porting the number anywhere, so you would probably just have to take that SIM card out.
Something to look into.
But
something to look into, because they're just sitting there staring at me.
Right.
Well. Things would have been a lot easier if I were able to unlock his phone. And back then, it was absolute, you cannot unlock his phone.
You didn't know his passcode to his phone?
No. Max knows mine, so he can get in whenever he wants. But lucky him. But nowadays...
you knew everything about your husband.
Which I'm sure
I have to laugh because I don't think the bank ever knew my my first and second husband's signatures because I signed everything.
Way to go. High five on that one.
Why not?
But I hear nowadays,
We are not promoting.
We are not condoning signature fraud.
We are not condoning any illegal activities. We were married at the time.
It's still illegal. You can't sign on.
but I heard
We're not
nowadays
condoning.
they can unlock phones easy, which was very frustrating to me. That's what I heard. I don't know if it's true.
I don't know if that's true.
But I don't know.
I don't know.
I think that's something that you are going to have to face when your spouse passes away, is what you do with the phone. And do you or do you not have the passcode? I mean, it could make your life a lot easier if you do. I don't know.
And sometimes you just don't want to deal with it, so you might smash it with a hammer and take it to the dump.
I have them all in the basement.
It is
go
all
ahead.
right.
I'm not condoning any destruction of property that does not belong to you.
I mean, it has been on my mind. Maybe I should just smash it up and take it to the dump. They recycle electronics.
Yeah, well, there you go. I mean,
I don't know. These are questions.
Those are all questions that we need to.
But yeah, those are really legitimate.
That's what I'm
thoughts.
saying.
Those are legitimate
That's why
questions.
I'm
Here we are,
saying.
almost, you're 3 years out. I'm almost 3 years out. Still don't know what to do with the phones.
I'm seeing bestseller. You can do the illustration of the smashed phone. I mean, you gotta make it on the average person can read it.
The average widow or widower.
Right, can read it and know what to do.
There's a lot.
How about a meme that goes viral? I don't know. Is that something? Does it happen?
Do a meme with you smashing your deceased husband's phone.
The last act of my marriage. The last act of my.
Well, that could go either way. We don't have to be widowed, ladies.
All right, y'all.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in on episode 5 of Two Married Widows and a Thrice Divorcee. We will see you Wednesday every other. See you then.